Hi, friend. Let's talk about specific strategies today. I wanted this video to be a little bit more technical. I was thinking about just different strategies that have helped me, especially more recently, I would say, in the past few months. And just kind of in the past few months, I've figured out ways to combine some strategies or some things that I've learned um, that has helped me kind of deal with things a little bit more fully. So, by things, I mean these strategies help me with emotional regulation, nervous system regulation, and also dealing with things that kind of trigger us, which is also both of those things, emotional regulation and nervous system regulation. So, kind of anything like maybe a person or a situation or something that someone says to you, if it kind of triggers a response that can be really hard to manage in the moment, or maybe it brings up other feelings, or different programmings that we might have of feeling like shame or guilt around certain things. These techniques have helped me, and essentially what it is just separating things from yourself, in a nutshell. So I'm going to go into kind of two areas of different ways to do this and how it kind of all connects. So the first area is going to be more of like physically doing stuff outside of yourself. And then the second area is mentally, like kind of doing some mental exercises, basically. So for the first one with physical things, um, you can journal things out, of course. That's an easy one. Um, might seem obvious, but truly getting something outside of your head, it can seem so simple, but putting it physically on paper, or sometimes I just use like a note in my phone, depending on where I am. But just getting it physically out can be very helpful. Um, it can just be for me, like journaling, it's more about the process. It's not about the product. Um, some people, I think, can think that journaling has to look a certain way, but it really doesn't. It's just the process of putting it on paper, like brain dumping, getting those thoughts or feelings out of your head. Um, and sometimes you can look back at your past journal entries, and that can bring insights and bring some help. But if not, that's just something that, again, just the process of it is helpful. And so you can journal it out, but you can also do something where if this is something that you're trying to like purge yourself of, basically, um, you can essentially like have a funeral of those thoughts or those feelings. So, there's different ways you can, write down, like journal out all the things about the situation or these feelings coming up, and then you can rip the paper up and throw it away in the trash can with the intention and just feeling through that of like, okay, like this thing I'm taking externally from me and it is going away. So it's not attached to me anymore. The physical act of doing that can be very helpful to help it feel unattached from you anymore. Um, but you can also burn it. Some people, you can burn the paper in a fire, or just like with a lighter safely, obviously. But again, just that physical act of kind of seeing it go away, can be really helpful and therapeutic, and just help it get externally from you. Those feelings, those kind of feelings in the body, feelings in your emotions. So those are kind of the two main external ways. Um, for me, where a lot of the magic is, though, is more of like the internal exercises. So the first one, this is something that actually like a coworker taught me, and it was very helpful dealing with situations that just made me very angry. Um, And I'm usually a pretty easygoing person. So when I get angry, I do tend to get like extremely annoyed or angry about something, because by the time I get there, like it takes me a lot to get to that point. So when I'm there, it's usually pretty intense. Um, and so, dealing with those feelings, um, you have to get it out somehow. You have to process that feeling. You have to acknowledge that feeling, feel it in your body, and then be able to work on letting it go. But if we ignore it, if we push it aside, right, that just integrates into our body, and it it stays with us. So, one way of getting that externally is something called the empty chair. At least that's, what it was called to me. There might be another term for it, but the empty chair technique or strategy, however you want to call it, is just imagining the person that you're mad at, um, to like being in that empty chair, and like you get off your chest all the things that you would want to say, because obviously most of the things that we're thinking we wouldn't want to actually say to someone, in person. But in order to feel those feelings, sometimes we have to like let it out, let out the messy version, right? Before we can deal with it in a way that we want to show up. Um, so letting it out, the messy version of it, doesn't matter. Obviously you want to do it not anywhere near this person, in the privacy of your own home, maybe not near anyone else at all, just so you can truly just be messy with it and get out those feelings, get out those words. And for me, I did this similar to what I was talking about in some previous videos of just like repetition. Like I did this repeatedly when those feelings came up. Especially, I feel like sometimes for me in the evenings when, I'm winding down for the day, or when I'm trying to go to sleep, that's when things about from the day creep back up. So when I felt those things coming back up in the evenings, usually I would go through that process again, um, until it got a little bit softer, like those feelings were a little softer. So that is a very helpful technique to just be able to be messy. Um, and that's one way of, it's kind of like internal and external, because you're like saying it out loud, but you're not like writing it down. And then some of these other areas, are for of like internal strategies are, ones that like I know a little bit of. I'm just going to kind of disclaimer, I'm just sharing like what I've learned. There's definitely way more in depth about these strategies that you can learn. So I'm just kind of sharing what I've learned and kind of how I've interpreted it. So, like one way is using internal family systems, and also like inner child work. Um, so essentially like naming the like certain feelings that come up that are more of like a past version of you, right? It's like, okay, like this is not what like adult version of me wants to be, but clearly like there's feelings that are left over, from our past that are coming up, or certain things again that we might get triggered from because of the past. And so looking at those feelings as like, oh, that's like my inner child, like little, like if I was using my name, like little Clara, and like what she needed in the past, right? As an example. So like using kind of that language. Some people also like name, oh, I just realized I bumped my mic. Hopefully that didn't do anything. But some people use their, or like name different things as well. So maybe if it's a particular feeling coming up, they will put a certain name to it, and give a couple different names instead of just like, you know, little Clara or young Clara or whatever. So there's different ways of doing it, but essentially, you know, the idea around it is just to see it as its own entity. And so that part is really, I think, the biggest thing. Again, all of these strategies ultimately are just ways of separating that feeling, the emotions, like anything attached to it, just slightly separating it from us so that we can look at it at a little bit of a distance and feel that, okay, this is, yes, a part of me. It's clearly coming up for a reason, but this is not who I am, right? To me, it made all of the difference because I would try to push feelings away when, that needed to be processed, but I was so afraid of feeling them sometimes because I thought like that was bad or that would make the feelings worse or that would make me feel this feeling more often. But in reality, it does the opposite, because you have to feel through it. But for me, like just the act of figuring out how to see it as slightly separate from me, like feeling that distance made all the difference because it's not like you can feel the feeling, but not have it be part of your core being, right? Like you can feel it, it is what it is, but you can feel it, but not have it attached to like your identity. Another term that I've more recently learned about is emotional neutrality, which I feel like I've learned about a bunch of different of these strategies and like I just noticed like the connection between them all. It's all just essentially like putting that difference and separating it from you, so that you can really look at it and process it without it fully like attaching to you as like an identity. Um, and yeah, so like emotional neutrality and the inner child work, or like looking at things as like your inner child or putting names to it, to different feelings, like that's kind of like the first step of like separating. But then okay, let me also talk about internal family systems along with that, and then I'll go into like kind of like the last big step that you should do, or that I did that was very helpful. But internal family systems, again, this is something that I just more recently learned about, and I haven't done a deep dive into it. But it's essentially looking at different feelings and different triggers or different like even maybe like thoughts that you keep having, like ruminations, trying to see them as a different part of you. So you can put different names to it or try to figure out like, oh, this is like stress, like the stressed Clara, or this is like overprotective Clara. So you can put different names to them and try to process them separately. For me, it just made more sense to just generalize it of just like, this is a part. Like I literally just saw it as like kind of like a cube. I don't know why. Like some people, like it's really helpful to see these things as like as humans, as people. Um, but for me, like it's almost easier just to see it as a part, like kind of an abstract thing that I kind of see like coming out of myself. I kind of pull it out, or like see it kind of pull out so that we can have a conversation. Something that I also heard someone has done is like kind of they described it as like having tea with an emotion. So in that case, you're kind of more personifying that emotion and you're having tea with it. And that's a way that they were able to practice like that emotional neutrality, where you're experiencing the feeling, you're letting it be, you're not trying to fix it, it's just doing its thing. And then, so you're feeling it, but it's not, again, that part, it's not a core part of you. You're seeing it as that separate thing. So, yeah, so with me, I would pull out kind of this part of me and then have a conversation with it. And a really cool thing that I also learned recently is someone kind of put a twist to this where it's almost like putting the like internal, or what is it? The, yeah, inner child work onto like the parts work. um, so with internal family systems, from what I understand, you look at that part. It's like learning how to separate that part from you, look at it, and like have that part also communicate back with you and like say what it needs, so you can kind of get to the root um, of what is happening, and where this is coming from. But then someone also took it kind of like a step further in my mind of having that part take on the job of fixing the problem. So if there's a part that's trying to protect you in ways that you don't need to be protected anymore, you can have that conversation. You might look crazy if you're just sitting there talking to yourself, but it's really helpful to just see it as a separate entity. And I usually just kind of have this conversation like in my head, even, but you could say it out loud, and have that conversation with that part of what do you need, like acknowledging like I hear you, like you essentially it's practicing like being your best friend too, which is so cool. Like all of these like these strategies to me, they just all kind of roll into one thing where you are just learning how to talk to yourself kindly, honestly. Like you are learning how to be so compassionate to yourself in ways that I feel like most people are not. Um, and it can feel weird. But it's just like so beautiful to be able to talk to yourself by separating out these different parts and empowering yourself. And it's not like affirmations and things like that have a place, they're important, but to me like this work of separating, putting that distance in between these different feelings or things that just keep coming up, putting that distance in and having that conversation. And it really is, it's being compassionate, it's listening to yourself, it's letting yourself feel the feelings without them attaching to you. It's allowing those feelings to move through, to exist, to be as they are in their raw form. And then you get to kind of be a therapist to them, to be like that compassionate best friend of, okay, like, what do you need? And also then empowering them of, okay, you have the tools to fix this problem. I trust you. I trust you to have the solution and to essentially, like, I don't want to say like grow up because that sounds like dismissive, but to truly up level, I guess, themselves. So you're talking to like those different parts that are stuck in the past or stuck, they served you at some point, those emotions or those reactions in your body. But, when you're trying to move past them, it's because you're not at that point anymore and these things are holding you back. So you get to have those parts like be heard and then realize like, okay, I can let this go and I can grow up essentially. Like I don't have to be that past version. I can, I feel like there's better words for this, but you can let me know if you can think of them, of better analogies or synonyms in the comments. But allowing those parts to grow, and like the beautiful thing about that is that you don't really have to do anything. Like your part is having the conversation, doing that separation, having the conversation, acknowledging, being compassionate, and then empowering that. And honestly, then it just naturally, I feel like, happens because that is you. Like we're separating these pieces, but it comes back to you. And that's where I get to like the last piece of it, that I feel like is something that really helped me bring it full circle. Whereas before, it's like, okay, if I just do like a part and then you talk to it, like it still kind of might feel external to you. And it might seem, I don't know, for me, it didn't always like come full circle. But when I realized you have to integrate, so you have the conversation and then you allow that part to come back in to yourself, right? And so for me, that's where all of the magic is really, because you're integrating that part back into you in such a compassionate way. Sometimes you could even like hug yourself or feel it like kind of touch your heart area of like, I feel you. And like that again, and it's like these signals to your body as well when you're doing that, to your nervous system of I'm safe, like I'm loved, and we've got this, right? Talking to like all the parts of us that support us throughout our life. So I think these practices have been so powerful and so helpful, and they're kind of abstract. So I was like, I'm just going to sit down and try to explain them to the best of my ability without being like too structured or academic about it. So hopefully some of it makes sense, but yeah, truly the act of just externalizing things, pulling things out, having those conversations, writing it out, burning it, having the messy conversation in private to get it out of your system, and processing these emotions, these past patterns that are getting stuck, talking to them like a best friend, or think about someone in your life who you truly care about, who you're the most compassionate to, and that's how you get to talk to your part. But when we try to do that just to ourselves, I feel like it's a lot harder. When it's like, oh yeah, like you're supposed to just kind of change your thoughts and like do like talk to yourself nicely. That can be really hard to do, for me at least, without that separation part. Because when you separate it out, like you're putting that space in between, you're seeing it as its own entity, and then that can be a lot easier to be compassionate to, rather than being compassionate to your whole being when you're feeling all these feelings, or maybe feeling guilt and shame. If you're feeling guilt and shame about something, it can be really hard to be kind to yourself in that moment. So separating it out is a game changer. And then ultimately, again, remembering to integrate it back to you, because it's just like full circle. And those compassionate feelings just come back into your body, into your spirit. And it's just really beautiful. So that's just how I've done a lot of more just healing work recently, especially with dealing with bigger emotions, or especially just patterns that I know have been stuck for a while. And again, like things like affirmations are really helpful, especially if you do affirmations or things before bed when you're just about to fall asleep. So things that can kind of seep into your mind, your subconscious as you sleep, and like the mind work of trying to change your thoughts, or notice thoughts that are maybe not aligned with you, or maybe are those stuck thoughts from your past. That's helpful, but to me it kind of has come short a little bit, because it's just doing like kind of mind work, and it's not dealing as much with like the feelings behind those thoughts. And so for me, again, these pieces of just pull it out, have the conversation, be compassionate, put it back in, and it's just like medicine for the soul. It's soup for the soul, truly. So I would love to hear if you've heard of any of these methods, or if you do a variation of this, or if there's any other variations out there, and how it has helped you, or if there's something you want to try out of all these things, because it's truly a game changer. All right, till the next time.